Yo, yo, yiggity, yo. Welcome back to the Beast Mentality Podcast. It is your host, Deshaun Beasley. And on today's show, I'm going to talk about a reflection prompt that we just received from our professor, Jeremy Benson. Like I talked about before on this podcast, I'm going back to school to get my master's. And one of the classes that I'm in this semester is youth policy. Uh, Youth policy. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Hold that thought really quick. I had to go get some snacks. I'm not gonna lie. I'm hungry. Just got out of basketball practice. It's been a long day, but nonetheless, I got work to do, right? So the question is, well, I guess just to fill y'all in, a little backstory. I had a presentation last week at this point, because it is now March 12th. So last week, that would be March 5th, I had a presentation about the Flint water crisis. So if you don't know, in Flint, Michigan, the governor of Flint was trying to save some money. So, I guess rewind. GM, General Motors, a car company, put a factory in Flint, Michigan. That factory produced a lot of pollution in the Flint River. So it's like notoriously known for being polluted and not something that you should swim in, drink in, et cetera, et cetera. The governor was trying to switch water supplies to the Detroit River because the water was cleaner. But he found out that it would take like a year and some change, 2 years to fix the pipes, and it would cost a couple $1,000,000. So instead of doing that, he decided to use the Flint River, which they knew was polluted. So, and when I say use the Flint River, he was trying to the city's public water. Instead of using clean water from the Detroit River, he decided to use polluted water from the Flint River. And when he first did it, GM was like, hey, this water is like corroding our car parts. Like, it's not working for us. So they switched GM's water back to the Detroit River. But Flint's water, the city of Flint, they kept it from the Flint River. So as you can see already, like, that's red flags already. Like, if the water is bad enough to be corroding or messing up car parts, you would assume that it's bad for humans. Nonetheless, there are multiple reports, I think over 40 or 50 reports of people calling in, I think up to 80 people like calling in, letting the city know that like, hey, there's lead in the water, blah, 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 blah. This goes on for like 2 years, basically. The EPA got involved. I feel like they could have applied more pressure because they knew that there was extreme levels of lead. But all in all, it was just environmental racism, racial capitalism, which was like kind of the topic. And it's racist capitalism because the state decided to put money over the needs of the people. Like, I feel like it's a basic right to have water. I mean, you would assume, right, in a country like America, but that's not the case. It's also environmental racism because majority of people who lived in Flint were Black or minority. And GM, because of this whole situation, they actually moved out of Flint, which led to deindustrializing Flint. So now you take away a bunch of jobs from the city, which obviously lowers the income of the city, which obviously lowers the amount of taxes that city pays. So the government is seeing as like, oh, these people have little to no value because they're not bringing any more value to the marketplace, as in capital. That's the racial capitalism. So because they're not valuable, because they're not bringing enough capital to the state, they're deemed as dispensable. So that's the Flint, Michigan situation. The director of the EPA stepped down at the time. She felt like it was the right thing to do, even though all of this happened underneath her watch for 2 years. But yeah, there's just a whole bunch of stuff why it was wrong. And we won't get into that because that would be a whole nother podcast and not for today. But the question for the prompt that we had was think of another social issue that exists locally. It can be environmental or related to other policy spheres like education, infrastructure, healthcare, housing, welfare, criminal justice, etc. Explain how this issue might be rooted in racial capitalism. So, other issues that exist locally. Hmm. Hmm. Well, it's maybe not locally here, but it's definitely like happening in a bunch of cities. You can even you I guess the nice way of saying it is gentrification. So like what happens is, I mean, we're seeing it now where like individuals, investors are buying houses, renovating those houses. Well, they're buying houses, they're getting rid of the tenants. Sorry. I guess this is the process. They buy the house. After they buy the house, they want to raise the rent. So they raise the rent. The tenant who's in there can't afford the rent, so they end up getting evicted. Once you get evicted, they renovate the property or build it up and then get new tenants in who can afford this. This happened in Cincinnati, Ohio, actually. There's a town, which is my hometown. There's a part of Cincinnati called Over the Rhine or OTR. I would say 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't catch anybody downtown unless in OTR, unless you needed to be there. Like it was known to be, crime infested, drug infested, all that good stuff. But now, 15 years later, it's a poppin' nightlife scene. Houses out there going up, rent in the area has increased. Like what happened? And I feel like it's rooted in racial capitalism. You have a vast majority, and this is just my thinking, because it says explore how this issue might be rooted in racial capitalism. Well, if you look at the city of Cincinnati, like before, so I guess 15 years ago, the only sports teams we had were the Bengals, who weren't that good. We had the Reds, who were not that good either. Um, and that was pretty much the only sports team. So you don't have a lot of like commerce coming in from sports. Some of the college teams in the area were pretty good, like Cincinnati Xavier. But yeah, you don't have a lot of commerce. Like, and typically, if you had money, you would live kind of like in the suburbs. So you would live in like towns like Mason, towns like Lebanon, towns like even Norwood, stuff like that. But you just started to see as time went on, the Bengals started getting better. They started building some bars. You started to notice that one of the things I started to notice is that they started allowing Section 8 vouchers in the suburban areas, I forgot a town like Westchester. So like Westchester is like one town over from Mason. And I wonder if I can share my screen. Yeah, I can. Because it makes more sense if you can see it. So, and I'll explain. Once you see my screen, it'll make sense why it may be rooted in racial capitalism. So you got OTR, which is over the Rhine, which is this area right here. Again, you wouldn't catch anybody over here. Like there's a saying like this little area CUF, like this is a hill right here. And they would usually tell people like who go to UC and live in this like Coreyville area, because Avondale is like the hood. Clifton is like okay, you know what I mean? Because it's a lot of college students because of University of Cincinnati, children's hospitals, because our hospitals are good. It's basically a saying like if you went to UC, you don't want to go down the hill, because once you go down the hill, that's the hood, which is true. Like that's over the Rhine. Finley Market was down there. About 10 to 12 years ago, they built this casino. I wonder if I click on it, will it? I don't know if it's gonna tell me when it was opened originally. Nah, but yeah, it's been open for quite a bit. Um, Yeah, it's been over for quite a bit. But once they built it, that's when you started to see like they started getting people. Well, around the same time this was built, they started allowing Section 8 vouchers, which, if you don't know, Section 8 vouchers are government sponsored vouchers where either the government pays for your rent, you get discounted rent, whatever the case may be. But they started to allow Section 8 vouchers in these neighborhoods, and you'll see how far out I'm going. So Avondale, the hood, St. Bernard area, the hood, North Avondale, the hood, Norwood, the hood, even Madisonville is the hood. Pleasant Ridge is kind of rough. Roseline, Carthage, those are all kind of rough. They started allowing Section 8. Wyoming's okay. Laughlин's okay. Lincoln Heights is definitely the hood. This little pocket over here. They started allowing Section 8 vouchers all the way out here in the Westchester area. I mentioned Mason. As you see, Mason's kind of like the next town over. You got Mason, you got Westchester. So like this area, they started allowing Section 8 vouchers. And it's like, why are you allowing Section 8 vouchers in the suburbs? Because there's a lot of nice properties around here, a lot of wealthy individuals who live in the Westchester area and who live in the Mason area. So it's like, why are you accepting Section 8 vouchers this far outside of the city? Right. And they even started allowing Section 8 vouchers in the Fairfield area, which was typically, again, like more of a white neighborhood, and even the Colerain Township area, which is where I grew up in. So you're allowing Section 8 vouchers in all of these suburban areas. And it's like, why? Well, it's because in these areas down here, they started to evict, raise rents, and gentrify this neighborhood, rebuild this neighborhood. So like now this is a popping downtown area. Like I said, the casino was built, TQL Stadium, which is home to a soccer team, was built. So now you got more people, flooding the downtown area. And the gentrification of the city like continues to happen. And you're wondering like, how is this racial capitalism? Well, you're displacing individuals outside of their home in order so you can make money. So basically these people have no value to you because they can't fill your pockets with profit. So because they can't fill your pockets with profit, you feel like they're disposable. And that's why it's like rooted in racial capitalism, in my opinion, because it's like whenever you're gentrifying a city, you're basically you know what? Let me actually look at the definition of gentrification because I keep on using that word, but I don't know gentrification. But I don't know if that's right. Refers to the process in which urban neighborhoods undergo transformation, typically characterized by an influx of wealthier residents, increased property values, and changes in the cultural and socio-economic makeup of the area. This often leads to the displacement of long-time, lower-income residents and changes in the character of the neighborhood. So definitely government policies and tax incentives and renewal projects like led to that. The market for sure led to that. Yeah, these are all like things that contributed to the gentrification of that neighborhood. And I mean, you're kind of seeing it here in Providence. Like there's certain neighborhoods where, uh, well, okay, like for example, East Providence. Some of my classmates were talking about this. I don't really know for sure, but in East Providence, they're apparently building like a housing project over in East Providence. And it's like, well, East Providence used to actually be like the nice part of town. And it's like, why are they doing that? Why are they building a housing project over in East Providence? Well, I don't know. What other renovations are going on? Well, I noticed like the Atwells area, which is like, I guess nearby, kind of close by. Like, I don't want to say it's starting to turn a little bit because there's such a large population, but you catch the drift. I think gentrification is one of those things where it's capitalism and it's typically seen as not racist, but like you're taking a low income person and displacing them out of a house in order so you can make money. And a lot of times they're in that neighborhood because they can't afford to live anywhere else. So now you're displacing a person who probably, can't doesn't have a car, doesn't have reliable income, because now they got to take more transportation to get to work. It's just compounding things, and that's why it's like racial capitalism. You're putting capitalism and you're mixing the race aspect of like displacing a lot of Black individuals. And it's crazy, like, to see like downtown. I want to pull up that map again. I chat GBT that definition of gentrification, but like you'll see in like on this map right here, this street, Liberty Street, you'll see all down this street. There's like a bunch of like, I don't want to say the hood, but like, see a bunch of homeless people down the street, all in the street. But anywhere over here, you're pretty much good in this little pocket. TQL Stadium, you're good. If you go down towards Lynn Street and past the highway, you're kind of getting to the hood again. Once you get over here, you basically get to the hood, right? Like the less well-off area. Like, and this is another area over here, the Fairmont area that's being gentrified. It's starting to get gentrified. Used to be the hood, used to be a low-income neighborhood, but now people are starting to buy it up and renovate it because of its proximity to the Clifton, the Over the Rhine area. It's like 10 minutes from downtown. So like you're kind of seeing it. Like, is it why? And like you're probably like, why is it racial capitalism? Because like these are people who are living in a housing area where they could afford. And now people are basically buying them out of their properties, raising the rents and gentrifying it. It's just not okay. But anywho, that's my journal entry. That's my thoughts. Follow me on Instagram at coach_bees, and I'm out of here. Peace.